Hello, you are listening to the Gamer Librarian Podcast, the best podcast you can find on this side of the multiverse. I am your host, Adrian, and today I will be talking about the video game Warhammer 40k Bolt Gun, our first sponsor for the podcast, and more. Afterwards, be sure to subscribe to be notified when future episodes are released, and show your support by liking and leaving a comment. Thank you for joining. Now, everyone, thank you for joining today. Now, this episode might be pretty quick because I am still feeling under the weather. As of last week, I had a sinus infection and I'm still fighting it right now. I probably sound a little congested, and I'll try to edit out as much coughing and stuff as you'll might hear, but hopefully that's not going to be an issue. And unfortunately, this week is a sad week for me as someone in my family passed, my grandmother, Dorian. She passed away on Tuesday, and we are still reeling from those effects. And, I was debating putting out this podcast just because I didn't really know if I would have the time or the energy to really just get this out there. But, I figured that she would want me to get this done because she was very enthusiastic about me doing the podcast and very supportive. So that's something that I really wanted to just follow through on. And there's a lot of things that I want to talk about and get through that, but moment of silence for Dorian just because she has been a great influence and supporter in my life. And things like video games and the podcast and my journey into an adult has just been so much more of a better experience because of her. And I am just personally glad that she's not suffering anymore under her condition and wherever she is, that she's comfortable now. That's all I hope for. So thank you, Dorian, for all that you've done for me. And now, I just want to get into the podcast with what I want to talk about. Now, I saw earlier in the week some really cool article on a man in Ghana, the country of Ghana, who makes coffins for individuals. Now, this man's, I have the article up right now. I want to talk about it because I think it's pretty cool and to talk about a little bit about death and stuff to relate to Dorian before we get into the main topics. But um, a a man by the name of Eric Ongenti Anang, who's about 33 according to the Vice article. He is in Ghana and he makes coffins for various amount of people depending on what they want in their life and how they want to reflect through their death and things like that. He makes coffins that are like based on cigarettes or syringes or like petrol stations, like gas station pump things, or buckets of fruit, like vegetables and fish. And if you're want to go out in style, if you think that your coffin it might be a little basic and you want to put some flair into it, have this guy make you a coffin. And he seems to make some really good stuff based on the pictures. And I thought that was really cool talk about here is that there's this man going around making these really extravagant, expensive coffins for a lot of people, and I think that's really great. Now, Dorian, she wanted me to cremated, so we're in the process of doing that. We're not getting her any fancy coffin, but I thought it would be very cool to talk about this kind of duality with people and what they want with, in terms of death and stuff. Me personally, I want to be shot into space. I want my body to be floating on forever and ever or as far as it can go in terms of space. But that's a lot of money. I don't think that's like even a process you can do right now. That's something that I would want. So to each their own with how they want to go out in life and be represented or remembered or any kind of way like that. So I think that's really cool. The article will be linked down below with the video. So if you want to check it out and maybe contact Anong yourself and get yourself a nice coffin. So that might be something really cool. Me personally, if I had to choose something from Anong, I might do like a Game Boy cartridge or like an Xbox system, something gaming like a controller or something like that. You know, that's something that I would choose. And I thought that was really cool. Something that really like brought me some kind of joy that there's some people out there that are trying to put some flair into like their departure to the afterlife and things like that. I think that's really, really great. And so before I really get into the main topics that I want to talk about, because those I'm a lot easier to ramble on and on about, I want to get uh, something down here first that we have a sponsor for the first time, and we're out 41 episodes now, and we have a sponsor. Now this is a sponsor that I didn't really have to work hard to get. I just filled out an application online. I didn't talk to anybody. I wanted to choose sponsors that I could give back to all of you viewing and listening to me talk, and I just want to be able to give a way to support you guys in that same kind of way. So if any of you are like me and you've always struggled to find a drink that not only provided quick energy in terms of late night gaming or any times of work that you're trying to get done, Dubby is a clean energy drink that is made to give you focus with no crash, jitters, or angst like other energy drinks. We also have no maltodextrin filters and don't use artificial dyes. Dubby contains vitamins, amino acids, a nootropic, and 150 milligrams of caffeine that could get you through those long gaming sessions or just plow through that late night work or schoolwork. I've been a college student for a very long time in my life, and I understand how much that work can pile on to a lot of people. Now, Dubby, through my code, which gets you 10% off if you use the coupon code Gamer Librarian, you can get 10% off of any of their products, which is from their drinks and powders that you can mix with water, and you can even put those in their own portable bottles that they also sell in their store. They even have apparel, stickers, and bags. So go and check out the website and find something for yourself that you might like because I just want to be able to give opportunity to you all listening for whatever amount of time or energy you guys give to me. That's what I always want to give back to, you know. I'm trying to find other sponsors, things like Audible and books, because that's another half of the podcast that I want to try and do. But right now, W is all I can give you guys. So check them out. Use that 10% code discount, Gamer Librarian, the coupon code Gamer Librarian at checkout to get the 10% off, and just do it, you know? Save yourself some money. Buy some games or books with the saved off 10%. That's all that's really for. So I really just want to talk about is our first sponsor, and I'm going to try and have some maybe more W content in the future for you guys. So keep a lookout on that. That is the Gamer Librarian coupon code for 10% off at checkout at the W website. And so, with that out of the way, let's get into what I really want to talk about. That's what I've been doing since, last week's episode, and not a whole lot to change. I'm still playing through the Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker DLC. We're in the post DLC now. It's very much like some kind of piratey scavenger hunt right now. Like you're looking for some vault, I believe. I haven't played in a few days just because of obvious reasons, but I'm so excited because Final Fantasy 14 is one of the funnest games that I've played so far, and I would like to start the Dawn Trail DLC pretty soon. But I think I'm going to take a few days off just to, unwind and play some different games for now. So in the meantime, I've been playing Warhammer 40K Bolt Gun, and this is a game that I've wanted since it was announced. I believe 2023, earlier 2023 was announced, and it came out shortly after, and it was on sale right now on the PS5. So I scored it and I'm having a blast with this game. This is a Warhammer styled game in the very similar vein of games like Quake or Doom, like the older Dooms. They're very pixely and arcadey. They have that very much like 80s, 90s style to them, but it's a glorious art style. All the animations and the gameplay mechanics work so well, even on the PS5. I'm playing it on normal right now, and it's a little difficult. Some of the encounters are fairly tricky. You kind of have to know your way around a lot of the enemy types and things like that. What I do wish this game had was something more of like a dash similar to Doom 2016 and Doom Eternal, where you can directionally change where you dash. The dash in this game is only just like a forward charge, and I don't know if it does damage specifically. You have a melee attack, which seems to do pretty good damage depending upon how low level or like low armor, I guess, the enemies are. But the melee seems kind of cool, and it seems like a lesser version of Doom 2016. I would love to see a more modern kind of AAA take on this game that's more like Doom Eternal in terms of like its graphics and its gameplay. Because I still like it, but after playing Doom Eternal, where the game is a lot more like it's more like a quick stick game, so it's like a bullet hell game. That's the kind of feeling that I got from Doom Eternal, especially on the harder difficulties. I don't know what Warhammer 40K would be like on the harder difficulties, but looking at this game right now, it's still pretty fun, and it's only pretty cheap. I think it's $21 on the PSN, and then the DLC, which I haven't started yet, but that's only $5, so it's really not much compared to any of the DLCs. And the game is pretty short. There's 3 chapters, and each chapter has maybe about 10 levels or so. And it's not very long. Each level might take you about 30 minutes to an hour, depending on your initial playthrough. That's what takes me around, so about 30 minutes to an hour because of retries and figuring out like where to go with the puzzles and stuff. They even have like a cool Dead Space style waypoint system where like you just press the button and a line shows you where you need to go, which is pretty cool. And it's fun. So anybody who's a Warhammer fan, they should check out this game out because it's nice to just pick up, flash some enemies around, and just get it done. Protect humanity from the forces of chaos and everything from Warhammer. The story for 40K Bolt Gun isn't really there. It's just like um you're courted by a like a mechanicus lady and you're told to go to this planet and then you just gotta kill stuff. That's basically it. You gotta kill stuff, survive, and get it done. So the bosses are pretty cool. There's some big bosses and they're relatively easy, especially on normal. So I don't know if I'm gonna ever try out the harder difficulty modes, but if you like Warhammer, this is definitely a game we should try out because I'm liking it. I like Warhammer video games more than the tabletop game specifically. And I first played like the RPG game it's my first intake to Warhammer, so that's what got me into this as a fan. And I'm still excited for things like Warhammer Space Marine 2 and the Rogue Trader DLC, which is coming out, I believe, later on this year in September or so. So I hope all of you who are fans of Warhammer stick around for when I get to play uh, Space Marine 2 and the Rogue Trader DLC eventually for the podcast, because those seem pretty fun. The Rogue Trader game, it has been great, and I would love to go back to it only because, the last act of it, the third act, was pretty buggy, and not a whole lot of the game could have been completed on my end. So I would love to see what I can do on the save file now in terms of what updates have been implemented, or maybe like better mods that like maybe simplify some of the quest notifiers and things like that, you know. And that's basically about it, for Warhammer. And I've also been playing Persona 3 Reload. I've been a big Persona fan since I first played Persona 5, and then I played Royale, and I even have Strikers, and I never finished that game, but I still like Strikers for the most part. And I've tried playing Persona 3 on the PS2 a while ago, and that is an older RPG, and I say older in terms of that it has like some gameplay mechanics that are very dated in terms of today's age. When I tried playing on the PS2, it has a like auto command feature for its companions, where you can't tell your companions what to necessarily do in certain actions, and that was a very much like a debilitating kind of thing to overcome in the game. And I never finished it because of that. It just made combat a lot harder in terms of trying to get it done. So Persona 3 Reload, I've been playing not very much. We've just gotten to, I guess, like the first tower or palace. You can play with your main character and then the two first companions, and I'm not very far. But hopefully next week, next podcast episode, or in the future, I can tell you guys all about my future experience with the game because I'm a big Persona fan. I have Persona 4 Golden, and the Persona fighting games are also pretty fun, and I'm super stoked for Persona 6. Hopefully they add in so much more stuff for Persona 6 in terms of what could be added from 5 and Royale with like the quality of life stuff and how they change things like fusing your personas and doing things like social links and the day and time stuff. I would just love to see more of that. The gameplay style that Persona offers, I think, is really great. As a single player RPG, you get hundreds of hours per playthrough, hundreds of hours. It is like a very text dialogue, like light novel kind of game with its story, but there's also great cutscenes for all these versions. They're very anime style. They're not very long, but you still feel like you're kind of watching like an anime show in that regard. So like I think Atlas really hits it out of the park with those Persona games that they have. And I even got the Persona 3 Reload DLC, which I believe comes out September. So by the time I finish maybe Persona 3, I'll come back and do the DLC. We'll just do them all at the same time around September and just get it all done. But for right now, I'm going to try and piecemeal through Persona 3 and things like Final Fantasy Endwalker just until some other titles come out. Things like Black Myth Wukong or like Space Marine 2, like Black Ops 3 or whatever games might come out in the future. Just, these longer title games just to kind of fill in the gaps between these titles launching, which I think is a pretty good style for, me right now. So yeah, those are really just the games that I'm playing through right now, just whenever I can find the time. So yeah, those are the games that I've been just playing. So look out for my finished titles next episode. We talk about those, and there is a game that I want to talk about in the future that's coming out. I think it's called Black State. It's very much like a Metal Gear inspired game, and it seems to be like a cross between Metal Gear and things like Portal. I just want to talk about it because the gameplay seems pretty cool. You can find it online. There'll be like a link that I'll post here for it, but it definitely seems like a Metal Gear game in terms of its action and how you can approach like stealth and like how you do missions and stuff like that. But there's supposedly some Portal stuff about it, which seems kind of cool. And I think games like that are definitely needed, especially comes things like Konami and what was it? Kojima games. They are not really like working on games like this anymore. We're not getting games like Metal Gear. Besides Metal Gear Solid 3 Delta, the remake that's coming out soon. So hopefully that game also lives up to the hype because that's Metal Gear is one of the best franchises you could have for a video game, and it's kind of sad to see that it went the way that it did with Metal Gear 5, Metal Gear Survive. So hopefully, not just Metal Gear 3 Delta, but things like Black State can definitely hold up the genre in terms of your more open-ended, stealth-based kind of games. And the storytelling seems very similar to a Metal Gear stuff. It's like very futuristic, very um, unknown of what's really happening around the characters. But Black State seems cool. It's supposed to come out, I believe, this year or something like that. But I just want to talk about it because it seems like a really good AAA quality game that's in that same vein as Metal Gear that people have been always wanting for a while. And hopefully, in the future, I plan on playing the remaster collection of the Metal Gear trilogy at some point before maybe Delta comes out or something like that. If I can find the time, it's very hard to find time to play any of these games all the time. Other games like the Marvel vs. Capcom collection, the arcade collection that's coming out later on this year, I'm also still keeping an eye out. I'm definitely going to try and make a full episode of the podcast based on that. But for now, I think that's about basically it on video games. There's not really much else to talk about. I'm still going to try and finish 40K Bolt Gun and Persona 3 Reload and try to get where I can into the Dawn Trail expansion by the time the next episode rolls around. And we'll see what happens. And other than that, I am just about on the end of finishing Dragon Age Stolen Throne by David Gator, and hopefully going to start reading The Calling by the same author soon, just so we can get deeper into that Dragon Age Road to Veilguard that I really want to get into. And we could play Origins and 2 and Inquisition, and just see how those three games really stack up against each other in terms of 2024 and what we can expect for Veilguard, because there's so much in terms of that trilogy and the overall franchise Dragon Age that we're expecting for Veilguard. At least for me. I want to see returning characters. I want to go to new and familiar places. I want to see the changes from my actions in the three games and how they're influencing Veilguard. I want to see how that becomes apparent. And they're not really forthcoming on that in terms of their trailers or their promotional material. I believe there's an article that came out that they're teasing having full frontal nudity or something like that, very similar to things like The Witcher or I guess Baldur's Gate. And to me, that's like flair or flavor text. I don't specifically need nudity in my video games. I don't care if these fake people are naked or not. But if the scene is like fun and it makes sense for a character to be naked in the kind of situation that's not just specifically sex, I think it'd be fun. You can have a lot of comedial like situational comedy out of being naked, and I think games like Dragon Age could definitely play into that, which is I think be very fun. So who knows what they're gonna do with that? And gonna try and finish the rest of the series before Vanguard comes out. And who knows, between playing that trilogy, playing Endwalker, Final Fantasy 14, and then any new titles coming out, it's definitely hard to find time to do that. But I'm trying to keep on to the Dragon Age wave as much as possible. And besides games, there isn't really much that I've been going on to. I've meant to start reading the boys comic book series, but because of Dragon Age, that's taking a big step back. But we have started watching The Boys season 4, me and Hannah, and that's been very fun. It's very much the Homelander show for right now. Homelander is still very much like the big target for characters like the boys and almost everybody. He's like the big antagonist next to things like Starlight, who I guess you can see as a antagonist of like the public eye for this whole season. And I'm still intrigued by it. I wonder where it's going to go with characters like Jeffrey Dean Morgan's character, and um, we're only on episode 3. We're not very far yet, so hopefully by the end of this episode, when we put it out, we'll be caught up by the boys, and we talk about it on episode 42, I believe. And we're also been watching House of the Dragon. Haven't started season 2 yet, but we're eventually going to start getting onto that. I am super pissed though on how George R. R. Martin keeps putting out updates for A Winds of Winter that aren't a release date for that book. Like you shouldn't be doing anything else besides working on that book. He shouldn't be. I think it's actually deplorable that he's putting time into anything else that's not the finished product. And he wants to do things like clarifying like how things like humans and the dragons relate for Winds of Winter, but who cares? Because we have like the House of Dragon books and shows, and that's like already done deal, you know. But House of the Dragon is definitely fun for a show. I like it more than the original Game of Thrones TV show, just because it's a more concise story. You're following one family, a very specific set of characters over a course of time, and I find that to be a much more engaging story than just characters going from land to land or just never see each other for seasons, like Daenerys Targaryen and some of the other characters. You don't see them interact for a while until the very end of the show. So, give those shows a watch if you're looking for something new to, put on the background while you're working or gaming or anything like that, because these are good shows. And that's pretty much all I'm watching right now. And, there's not a whole lot of TV shows. I know there's like a lot of flack for things like the Star Wars Acolyte, and I've only seen things like The Power of One, The Power of Two, The Power of Many. I've seen that meme, and I hate that. The Power of Two or the Rule of Two has always been kind of cool in terms of the grander Sith mythos for Star Wars, but when like you kind of think about it, it makes no sense to have a master portray or try to get his apprentice to kill him to make them stronger and then rinse repeat. That kind of cycle almost never made sense to me, but it is cool to regard. And Star Wars is what it is. I'm not the biggest Star Wars fan since Disney bought it out and made all this stuff. Some of the content's good, like some Mandalorian seasons or episodes are really good, and some of them are really just not great. So the Acolyte might be something I'm watching later on. I'm really not interested in Star Wars right now, so who really knows? And in terms of the future for like anything else coming out, they did announce that there is a new VHS movie coming out, and it is called I don't think there is a name. No, it is called VHS Beyond, and it comes out October 4th, and that's pretty cool. I'm a big VHS fan. I love found footage movies. I think that in terms of horror and getting authentic like film techniques and how things would be authentic for being in that place, filming on your phone or getting things off security cameras or body cams, anything like that. I think found footage films are the pinnacle horror. It's the best you can get out of anything. And I would love to see what VHS does for this fourth installment. Anybody who doesn't know, VHS is like an anthology horror film. There's about four movies: VHS, VHS 2, VHS 85, and now with New Beyond coming out this year, this makes four. Now, they're anthologies, so none of these stories are connected as far as I know. They're all very secluded and they're isolated in terms of their storytelling. And they even got writers like Mike Flanagan from things like all the Netflix horror shows that you can watch. I think he does, which is really great. So that's cool. That's really cool to see that they're still making VHS stuff. I'm definitely gonna be watching that. It's on Shudder, it's Shudder original. I think 85 was also a Shudder original. So that's pretty cool. So for the podcast, maybe around Halloween, we're gonna be certainly talking about that. And yeah, that's all I really want to talk about the podcast. There hasn't been a whole lot of gaming news that came out this week. With the grieving in process, tried to keep up on most of the gaming news that's come out, and not a whole lot's happened. There's been like a sausage party, I guess TV show or something on Amazon that came out, and the Demon Slayer newest season hasn't been very good. And this just seems like there's not a whole lot of gaming news worthwhile. Certainly going to be watching the Deadpool and Wolverine movie in the future. That's going to be pretty cool. And yeah, I hope you guys check out the sponsor. We'll talk about them one more time. The sponsor is Dubby. If you go to the website and use coupon code GamerLibrarian, you can get 10% off of any of the products, which range from drink powders, apparel, bottles, stickers, and bags. So you can get a good amount of stuff with 10% off. And I hope you guys like their products. They work good for me, and I enjoy having a nice energy drink that makes you feel refreshed in those late gaming night hours. So that's our first sponsor for the podcast. There isn't really much else for us to specifically talk about. I hope to get deeper into some of these video games for you all. And I think we're doing the end of the video. This has been pretty good. A lot longer than I thought it was going to be. I was thinking maybe 5 to 10 minutes for this episode, but we're hitting on 25 minutes now. So I think that's a good place to call it. Let me know what you guys want me to read or watch or what we should talk about in the future with games coming out and all this kind of stuff because there's a whole lot of things in the gaming industry and media industry that I think is very important for us to talk about. And, for everybody else out there, stay safe and, do your best to be a good person. And that's about it. That's all I got to say. Take care, everybody.